The billionaire refused to dance until a maid and her little girl revealed an amazing secret. Ethan Caldwell stood on the balcony of his sprawling Silicon Valley mansion, staring into the sea of glittering lights below. He was supposed to revel in this moment after all. He was a tech billionaire, a king among men, yet inside he felt hollow. As the charity gala unfolded in the lavish ballroom, the laughter and music below only amplified the emptiness that wrapped around him like an iron shroud. He held a glass of expensive champagne, but the fizz had gone flat long ago. What was this all for? His company? His wealth? All the luxurious cars parked in the lot. They felt like monuments to a life he didn't want anymore. The sterile hum of business meetings had replaced the chatter of a loving family long ago. His wife had left him years back, his children were distant memories, hidden behind walls built of unyielding ambition. There was a time when he had chased dreams, but now, all he chased was profit. Dancing, he decided, was not for him. It was bold, vulnerable, a reminder of who he once was. He remained resolute there on the balcony, alone with his chaos while the guests twirled and swayed beneath him. Maria, a maid from a nearby town, moved gracefully among the affluent guests. She didn't belong to this world, but her radiance and the little girl at her side, their laughter a curious melody against the backdrop of exclusive conversations, brought an energy that seemed to lift the room. Ethan could see it from the balcony. Maria's child Sofia, with her big brown eyes, was captivating. Their joy was infectious, contrasting sharply with his own desolation. As the evening unfolded, Ethan's internal struggle grew more pronounced. The music tugged at him, and for a fleeting moment, he wondered if he could just let go. What if he danced? The thought made him tremble. Could he risk that vulnerability? Could he expose himself beyond these walls he had built? He held his breath, unsure. The festival of poverty and wealth swirling together made him question everything. Before he could answer that question, Sofia approached him. She hesitated but then tugged at his sleeve. "Mr. Caldwell," she began, her voice barely carrying over the upbeat melody of the gathering. "I have a secret." The room spun around him as he glanced down. Her innocent hope flooded him with an unexpected warmth. He absent-mindedly waved her off, consumed by swirling thoughts, but she leaned in closer, igniting an ember of curiosity deep within him. "I can paint," she whispered. "And my mom used to want to be an artist too." The revelation struck him like a blow. The pain of unfulfilled dreams, smothered by the overwhelming weight of financial strain, hit him with a wave of empathy. He found himself leaning closer, absorbing the fragile sparkle of inspiration shining from that sweet child. Suddenly, he was staring into a mirror that showed not only her hidden talent but also the husk of his own abandoned aspirations. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The unsettling silence thickened around him as he processed her words. Time seemed to slow, and Ethan realized he was standing at an intersection of the man he was and the one he might still become. Watching Maria and Sofia embrace each moment with awe and gratitude, he felt suffocated by the realization that his fortune had encased him, isolating him from genuine affection. He stepped closer to them, his heart racing as uncertainty gripped him like a vice. Could he let go of the weight of expectation and rediscover the joy of simply being human? The notion terrified him. He was a billionaire surrounded by glitter and glamour yet felt more like a ghost among the living. As the music echoed and the guests continued their revelry, Ethan stood perilously at the threshold of possibility, the urge to dance within him conflicting fiercely with his fears. With the battle waging inside him, one thing was clear: his life was about to change, and he could feel it in his bones, igniting a flicker of hope that might just break him free from his self-imposed prison. Ethan watched as Sofia's earnest gaze drilled deep into his carefully constructed defenses. Each heartbeat echoed as he processed the weight of her words, I can paint. A moment of clarity washed over him, pushing aside the layers of his isolation. The ambition that had consumed him for years was now juxtaposed against this vibrant child, full of dreams yet untainted by the cynicism that had settled into his own spirit. Paint? He echoed, the word rolling off his tongue like an unfamiliar melody. He was surprised to find interest bubbling at the edges of his soul, where only shadows had resided. What do you mean? Had he forgotten what it felt like to nurture creativity, to explore potential in its raw form? Yes. I can show you. My mom said it makes feelings come alive. Her enthusiasm pulsed between them, shaking loose the cobwebs of his discontent. Ethan realized that this simple interaction was tinged with profound significance, so profound it threatened to topple his entire way of life. Show me, he found himself saying, the command mixing both curiosity and a hint of desperation. He was unsure if he wanted to see her talent or if he craved to uncover pieces of himself buried deep at the bottom of his ambitions. As they stepped away from the revelry of the gala, he could feel the glittering facade of his life pulling away. Framed by memories of his past, the artist he once dreamed of becoming, they walked toward a secluded corner of the mansion's vast garden, an area where sunlight flickered among the trees. Here, Sofia said, her small hands gracefully motioning for him to sit beside her on the grass. She produced a crumpled sketchbook, her fingers nimble and delicate, almost reverent. With a flourish, she opened the book to reveal pages filled with colorful, chaotic images that danced with life and innocence. Each stroke brought forth visions of fantastical creatures and serene landscapes, evoking emotions that Ethan had long buried. Her passion cracked open a wall he hadn't realized he had erected, and his guarded facade crumbled further. What obstacles had he placed in his path? Why had he chained himself to a life that felt like grains of sand slipping through his fingers, moment by moment? Your mom wanted to be an artist? He asked, sensing there was more behind her words than innocent childhood aspirations. She nodded, a shadow crossing her youthful face. She said she wanted to paint the world how it really was, but she got scared, and then, the lingering silence forced Ethan's thoughts into an introspection he wasn't prepared for. Was fear behind every decision he made, every wall he built, every lonely night spent overlooking a city that thrived from the soul he no longer recognized? Do you still dream of that? He pressed gently, his own desire to heal rising within him. Every day, she replied, her confidence unshakable despite her small frame. I want to paint. I want my mom to be happy. What about you? Do you dream? Ethan faltered. The question pierced him, unraveling the tightly held threads of his ambition. He wanted to answer, but every response felt like an admission of guilt. Could he admit that he had silenced his dreams for the sake of success? Could he reveal that he longed for a life beyond business deals and boardrooms, a life adorned in colors and creativity? Finally, he took a deep breath. I've lost sight of it, but maybe that's a choice I can change. The words hung in the air, charged with possibility. Sofia's eyes widened, and in that moment, he realized the transformation unfolding within him. Vulnerability was no longer something to shy away from, it was a gateway. The words "I want to dance" flickered on the edge of his consciousness, tempting him into a realm of daring choices. This child, with her unblemished dreams, had unshackled something deep within, a questioning light illuminated by her innocence. As they sat in the garden, enveloped in a vibrant tapestry of colors blending in the sunset, Ethan's heart raced. What would he do next? Could he embrace that possibility when the world around him screamed otherwise? Decisions loomed ahead, decisions that could lead him back to the artist he could still be or fracture him completely. And in that glorious moment of reflection, a silent vow took root, a dedication to stepping closer to rediscovering his own canvas. But as they looked up, the sounds of laughter and celebration once again broke the stillness. In that instant, the music from the gala flared around them, beckoning him back to the tempest of his responsibilities. The future he yearned for was a dance away. Could he step into this newfound freedom, feeling the rhythm of life embrace him once more? With each passing second, the pressing urgency became undeniable. The internal battle raged fiercely, and decisions that could alter the course of his existence awaited him. The transformation had merely begun. In the days that followed the garden encounter, Ethan became a kaleidoscope of emotions, each turn revealing something he had buried deep. He returned to the office, but the familiar hum of the corporate machinery rang hollow against the backdrop of newfound clarity. Each deal he discussed felt like a missed opportunity to chase colors instead of profits. The morning after their encounter, he woke up before dawn, restless thoughts invading his mind as he stared at the blank canvas he had hidden in the corner of his studio, a relic from his ambitious past. He let the brushy, dreamy memories wash over him. He remembered the way paint glided over canvas and transformed a mere surface into vibrant worlds. A longing swelled, jumbled with fear. Could he still access that part of himself? He found himself half-dressed in a suit. Decisions made to maintain his position in the corporate hierarchy, dictated by others' definitions of success. But a small voice beckoned him to abandon his usual attire of rigidity, to find an outfit that felt like him. With each adjustment he made to his wardrobe, he slowly peeled away the role he had created. A tailored blazer replaced with a loose knit sweater, polished shoes swapped for boots stained with remnants of his artistic past. The further he moved from the businessman image, the lighter he felt, almost ready to float out the door. At work, he noticed the subtle judgments from colleagues, those who had only seen the once ambitious Ethan, the high-powered negotiator. The whispers felt heavier today. "Where's the focus, Ethan?" they seemed to say as he navigated through the office. Yet, their views of him began to fade in significance. With every step he took, he seemed to return to that moment in the garden, the intensity of the little girl's dreams an anchor grounding him. Late in the afternoon, he made an impulsive decision that surprised even himself. Rather than attend the scheduled client meeting, he took a detour to Sofia's home, where she often painted in the park, hopeful to observe her uninhibited creativity. Those innocent strokes, he thought, might reignite something dormant within him. When he arrived, he found her startlingly vibrant against the gentle spring greens of the park. Paintbrush in hand, she moved in a way that appeared instinctual, flecks of color splattering across paper as her laughter floated over the air. "Ethan!" she called out with bright eyes, almost jumping off the makeshift stool she had fashioned from a tree stump. "You came." As he joined her, the reality of the moment weighed on him. Her freedom to express joy from her heart stood in stark contrast to the carefully curated life he had fought so hard to build. How had he come so far away from that sense of authenticity? "I want to paint like you," he confessed, a tremor of vulnerability rippling through his voice. It was a revelation that felt both liberating and terrifying. "Then let us do it." Her enthusiasm was contagious, and as she handed him a brush dipped in brilliant blue paint, the world around him seemed to fade. He hesitated, fingers gripping the tool, mind racing through past insecurities and fears. But then a different kind of determination took hold. Perhaps giving in to the tides of creativity was not an act of surrender, but an assertion of self. He dipped the brush onto the paper, vibrant strokes flowing from his hand as if unseen forces guided him. For the first time in years, Ethan felt the soul behind his ambition begin to awaken. Each stroke was a reclaiming of his buried aspirations, drawing him back to an identity he had ignored. Chaotic lines emerged from tranquility, revealing the shared narratives of an adult and a child learning to dream together, yet still, a voice in his mind whispered of the real challenges ahead. Returning to the corporate grind, would he remember this moment? The prospect of facing his colleagues, the possibility of rejection from the space he had once embraced, loomed excessively over him. As he and Sofia painted together, a spark ignited within Ethan. He realized it wouldn't only be a risk of failure that he'd face, but also the emotion of losing what could be a life rich with creative fulfillment. The colors were beautiful, the painting a testament to their cooperation, but beyond the paper, a question returned: could he reconcile the artist within with the businessman he had become? The canvas awaited more than just paint, it demanded a decision. The little girl's laughter rang through him, turning oppressive shadows back toward inspiring light. What awaited him if he embraced this path of vulnerability over the perceived safeties of his corporate life? He glanced at Sofia, who radiated confidence. But the question still shrouded his heart: could he truly dance, not just in paint but in the chaos of rebirth? The brush hovered in the air, and Ethan felt the weight of the moment. What would happen when he embraced this new world, where artistic exploration and business acumen collided, and the next step blurred into uncertainty? Ethan hovered above the canvas, the brush trembling in his hand. Each colorful smear felt like a battleground between the man he used to be and the artist he could become. The vibrant blue intermingled with ever-intrusive doubts: could he truly redefine himself? The laughter of Sofia echoed in his ears, a gentle provocation to push through his hesitations. With a deep breath, he pressed the brush against the canvas. The initial strokes felt foreign, raw and jagged, as if they were grappling for a form. Yet, amidst this chaos, the sensation of liberation surged within him. The activity was invigorating, it stung yet exhilarated. For the first time in years, Ethan surrendered to the fluidity of creation, each paint stroke forging a deeper connection with his unguarded self. He stole glances at Sofia, who danced from one color to the next. It was beautiful. Her unfiltered joy ignited a desire to unshackle his inhibitions. They painted side by side, a silent conversation unfolding through hues of orange, green, and turquoise. Their comradeship transformed the exercise into an intimate exploration of dreams, but beneath this empowering atmosphere, an undercurrent of anxiety persisted. He remembered the corporate world waiting for him: the sharp suits, the perfunctory exchanges, the stark metrics of success. A wave of nausea coursed through him. Each cheerful stroke felt treasonous to the life that held him captive, a life where risk was marked as folly and creativity deemed irrelevant. What if tomorrow, I forget this feeling? Ethan's voice pierced the ambience, a sudden sharpness that startled even him. The thought churned in his stomach. What tangible shape could this artistic revival take in his otherwise stale existence? Sofia paused, her brush hovering over a puddle of vibrant yellow. Then just paint again, she said with the authority only a child could wield. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Her words lingered in the air, igniting a flicker of hope. Could this be his truth? Ethan could envision waking up, not to the rigid demands of an executive day, but to the scent of paint and the promise of creation. Yet, that dream knew its price. The sacrifice would echo through the sterile boardrooms where goals intertwined with lives, abandoning the pragmatic self in pursuit of passion. Would the lost relationships and expectations haunt him if he let go? Suddenly, an idea struck him: a dangerous notion. He stood taller, the weight of his choices shifting into a newfound buoyancy. Maybe the artistic path wouldn't obliterate the businessman but could enrich him instead. A hybrid existence where art inspired strategy, where creativity permeated every deal he brokered. That he tucked the brush into a harmonious swirl, a decision materializing with each of its vibrant strokes. This was not just art, it was a manifesto of transcendence. But what if I fail? He quietly pressed, as if questioning a cosmic force. Sofia's laughter filled the air once more. But what if you fly? Standing before the canvas, the flicker in her eyes pierced through his fears. Suddenly, the image of his colleagues judging him began to dissipate. They had only seen fragments of his multifaceted existence, reflections narrowed down to excitation and disappointment. Ethan threw caution to the wind, inviting the stirrings of his heart. I will fly, he whispered, allowing exhilaration to drown his doubts. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of red and gold, Ethan understood this journey transcended mere painting. It was an audacious confrontation of self, an awakening that demanded exploration beyond the workplace confines. Yet, as he cleaned his brush, he felt the heaviness of looming decisions press upon him once more. He would have to confront his superiors, face their raised eyebrows and disapproval head-on. How would he defend this new identity, an artist within the walls of ironclad expectations? The path he envisioned was soon obscured by nebulous fears and unanswered questions. His heart raced with uncertainty, yet conviction pulsed through his veins. He could no longer ignore the duality within. The excitement simmered into clarity. Tomorrow, he would initiate change at work. But how? With a final stroke, he signed the canvas, a declaration of his imminent transformation. But it was not just a painting, it was a beginning, a declaration. As darkness nestled into the corners of the park, Ethan turned to Sofia, her joyful grin illuminating the shadows. He felt the brush still warm in his hand, a signal, a tether to his new reality. The tightrope between ambition and creativity lay before him, a balancing act fraught with tests of will. Would he embrace the full spectrum of his identity, or allow fear to render him mute yet again? Ethan took a step back to admire their artwork, yet deeper contemplation brewed within. What awaited him when he forced the narrative into the corporate sphere? The challenge was palpable, awaiting the dawn. The morning light streamed through the towering windows of Ethan's office, each ray illuminating his surroundings as if spotlighting the choice he now faced. His polished desk, lined with neatly organized documents, felt stark in contrast to the vibrant colors of last night's canvas. A deep unease settled in his stomach, the thought of swapping his paintbrush for a corporate pen seemed increasingly oppressive. He couldn't shake the memory of Sofia's laughter. It echoed like a siren call, nudging him toward possibilities long buried beneath layers of expectation. He took a moment, breathing deeply, grounding himself in the swirling conflict within. The artist that emerged in the park felt real, alive, yet simultaneously distant in the cold confines of his cubicle. When he stepped into the sleek boardroom, where his colleagues were busy preparing for a crucial presentation, a tidal wave of familiar pressure crashed over him. The tension was palpable, a silent competition where sharp suits and piercing glances battled for dominance. He could almost feel their skepticism before he even uttered a word. As he took his seat, he scanned the faces around him, assessing each person's role in the corporate machine. The looming question gnawed at him: how could he redefine himself in this environment, make a time-worn space bloom with creativity? Would his colleagues even entertain such an idea, let alone accept it? "All right everyone, let's get this started," David, the project lead, announced, rolling out the agenda. "Today, we're discussing strategies to boost our engagement across all divisions. I want innovative ideas, not the usual run-of-the-mill approaches." Ethan felt a jolt of inspiration. What if he shared the abstract concepts from his recent artistic revelations? The fusion of creativity and business strategy had long beckoned to him as a fleeting thought, but now it stood like a beacon. He could reshape their approach, dousing their rigidity with the vibrancy he found on the canvas, yet hesitation rooted him to his chair. The idea felt as precarious as painting a canvas while blindfolded. Would they welcome this new perspective, or view it as a weakness? Their reaction could either open doors or slam them shut. "Ethan." David's voice pulled him from his reverie. "Any thoughts on how we could position ourselves against the competition?" The eyes of his colleagues turned expectantly toward him. The spotlight was glaring. Sweat began to bead on his forehead as he recalled the walls of the boardroom, stark and impersonal. In that moment, he realized he had two choices: retreat into the safety of silence or risk stepping into the unknown. The traditional approach, metrics, cold data, and rigid strategies will only yield traditional results, he said, surprise bubbling forth in a voice he didn't recognize as his own. "We need to embrace creativity, to allow our strategies to breathe and grow. Together, we can create solutions that not only meet business needs but resonate personally with our clients." A silence filled the room, heavy with disbelief. "Are you suggesting someone began, drawing a scoff from another?" Their cynicism hit him like a shot, but problem-solving thoughts churned in his brain. Did they fear an identity that blurred lines, or was it simply unfathomable to mix business with imagination? "Yes," Ethan pressed, heart racing as he leaned into his convictions. "Artistry isn't just for galleries, it's the essence of innovation. It stimulates engagement, helps us connect to the human experience in our strategies." The initial wave of skepticism persisted, but he noticed the slightest intrigued glint in a few eyes. Perhaps those who had only ever counted pieces and numbers had never dared to consider a world outside their data. It was a chance to expand not just concepts, but perspectives. David rubbed his chin, weighing the gravity of Ethan's proposition. "Interesting take, Ethan. I'd like to hear more about your vision." But be prepared for some pushback. The pulse of adrenaline surged through Ethan. Here it was, the first step. Onto uncharted ground. Could he navigate through objections and push toward acceptance? Would risk entrench him deeper into conflict, or could his determination reshape their culture? As the meeting trudged on, ideas began to stir within him. He jotted down notes, passionately sketching possibilities not on canvas this time, but in the minds of his co-workers. Each idea dripped with the colors of his new resolve. Yet, another layer of anxiety curled in his gut. What if they ultimately rejected his views? What if he put himself out there, only to find the artistic flame extinguished by harsh critique? Enduring the external pressures of the corporate world paled in comparison to the internal battle raging. Ethan was resolute in aligning these opposing forces within himself, preparing for what lay next. He gathered his notes as the meeting concluded, invigorated by an unexpected thrill. This was just the beginning. Today had revealed a path he hadn't fully embraced before, yet it beckoned him. Ethan stepped into the empty hallway, each step a harnessing of newfound will. He could feel his heart beat rhythmically, a metronome guiding him into uncharted territory. Would his colleagues see the merit in fostering creativity alongside their strategies, or would the force of tradition resist him? The thrill of the impending battle wove through his mind. The stakes were rising, but Ethan now understood the profound importance of being both businessman and artist. As the shadows of the office crept along the floor, he contemplated the thresholds he had yet to cross. Tomorrow, he realized, would require every ounce of courage to face those doubting eyes. With determination ignited, he strode forward, knowing confrontation loomed on the horizon. Little did he know, it would take every bit of growth and strength he had begun to nurture to transcend the boundaries that confined him. What reaction awaited him when he laid bare his vision? The unfolding journey was just beginning to blossom, laden with possibilities, each step a confrontation of identity and ambition. As dawn broke, casting hesitant rays through the windows again, Ethan approached the day with a blend of resolve and trepidation. The echoes of yesterday's board meeting reverberated in his mind. Would he truly find a way to bridge the chasm between creativity and the corporate mentality that often stifled it? He poured himself a cup of coffee, drawing warmth from the mug as he contemplated his next moves. The stark contrast of black liquid against the vibrant colors of his palette lingered in his thoughts. He had dared to speak up, to challenge the norm, but the thought of backlash haunted him. Each sip seemed to fuel the flames of determination in his chest, but apprehension snaked around the edges of his mind, whispering reminders of their potential rejection. Arriving at the office, Ethan felt the familiar walls close in around him, the buzz of activity contrasting sharply with his introspective spirit. Instead of succumbing to the pressure, he resolved to confront it. He sought out Sarah, a cautious yet perceptive colleague with a keen eye for design, someone who often shared his affinity for creativity. "Sarah, do you have a minute?" he asked, his voice steady despite the flutter in his stomach. "Sure, Ethan, what's up?" she replied, glancing away from her screen with an openness that encouraged him. "I've been thinking about how we can incorporate more creative strategies into our client engagement," he began, excitement threading through his words. "What if we host a brainstorming session to explore unconventional approaches? Bring in some artistic techniques?" Her eyes lit up, curiosity mingling with caution. "Artistic techniques? You mean like storytelling or visuals?" "Exactly." Ethan's spirit surged. "Imagine integrating visuals into project plans or using storytelling to communicate our brand's journey. We could make our presentations not just informative but captivating." "I like the idea," but Sarah hesitated. "You know how the others can be. They might not see the value in it." His chest tightened at her, the truth in her words. "Then it's up to us to show them. We can start small, maybe with a closed session. If we can generate some excitement, they might come around." "You might be right," she conceded, nodding slowly. "Let us plan something and see how it goes." As they discussed logistics, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. Working collaboratively, they crafted a plan to present ideas to the rest of the team. This was not just a strategy, it was a personal commitment to advocate for creative integration in a field known for its rigidity. The morning swiftly morphed into afternoon, and they worked feverishly, bouncing ideas back and forth. Despite the looming specter of doubt, Ethan found comfort in Sarah's enthusiasm, creating a positive momentum that pushed back against his fears. However, the stark reality of their workplace came crashing down as the day drew to a close. David caught him in the hallway, curiosity laced with caution on his face. "I heard you and Sarah have a concept you want to share." Ethan's heartbeat quickened. "Yes, a brainstorming session focused on creative approaches for client engagement." David crossed his arms, a smile playing on his lips that masked skepticism. "Do you really think throwing art at the problem will work? You said you wanted innovative ideas." "This is about looking beyond conventional metrics and exploring new ways to connect with our clients," he countered, fighting to keep his voice steady. A flicker of uncertainty crossed David's face before he responded. "All right. Present it. But if this doesn't resonate, don't say I didn't warn you." The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily upon Ethan, but a flicker of defiance ignited within him. This was not just another pitch, it was a representation of everything he had been hiding. He couldn't help but ponder whether he was on the precipice of substantial change or courting inevitable disaster. A wave of self-doubt washed over him. This might expose all his creative vulnerabilities not just to David but to the entire team. But maybe, just maybe, this was his moment to transform fear into foundation. With a hurried exchange of ideas with Sarah, Ethan bolstered his resolve. They decided to approach the brainstorming session with a segment focused on direct audience engagement. The thought of tangible interactions fueled his motivation. As Ethan prepared his presentation, he realized that this was more than merely a professional endeavor. It was a defining moment for his identity. He was no longer just an artist trapped in a corporate maze, he was evolving into a pioneer on the brink of shaking the foundations of convention. Could he conjure enough courage to shatter their rigid expectations? With each new thought, blood surged through his veins, a provoking reminder that his pursuit of creativity was not just for his own fulfillment, but to lead a change that could transform their paradigm entirely. As he wrapped up his notes, the din of the office seemed to quiet for a moment, enveloping him in a focused silence. What awaited him was both exhilarating and terrifying, an arena where creativity would clash with skepticism. Would he stand his ground or shrink back into the shadows of conformity? The weight of the impending confrontation loomed larger than ever. The time had come to reveal the artist he had kept so carefully hidden. Tomorrow would be Judgment Day, where ambition and apprehension would collide head-on, setting the stage for a revelation that could either define or destroy him. Would his vision inspire, or would he be met with ridicule? Only time would tell. As the morning sun cast long shadows across the office floor, Ethan felt the atmosphere thrum with an electric tension. Today was no longer just another day at work, it was the canvas upon which he would paint his concepts of creativity, and each tick of the clock heightened his awareness of the stakes involved. He stood at his desk, flipping through his presentation slides, aware that every detail needed to resonate with the team's pragmatic mindset. Graphics flashed before him, colorful, engaging designs that sang of a fresh approach. Sweat prickled at his brow as he recalled the conversations with Sarah, her enthusiasm palpable yet laced with her own fears. They had poured their energy into this, and now it sat before him, a fragile testament to their hopes. The meeting room loomed ahead, a glass box that echoed the echoing footsteps of his heart. Each step felt heavier than the last, laced with both fear and fierce determination. He faced corporate challenges before, but this felt personal. This was a glimpse into the future he envisioned, one where creativity wasn't just tolerated but celebrated. As his colleagues filed into the room, Ethan found himself grappling with a sudden wave of insecurity. Would they scoff at his ideas? Dismiss him as overly ambitious? Dread pooled in his stomach, but he forced himself to breathe deeply, attempting to quell the rising tide of doubt. "Hey, you got this," he whispered to himself, feeling the warmth of the coffee he had sipped earlier still coursing through him, a reminder of the passion that fueled his ambition. Sarah entered last and offered an encouraging smile that bolstered his confidence. She had faith in their vision, and perhaps that would be enough to inspire others. Her presence was a reminder that he was not alone in this struggle for change. Ethan took a deep breath, cleared his throat, and stepped to the front of the room, where the polished conference table gleamed like a judgment seat. "Thank you all for joining us," he began, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. "Today, Sarah and I would like to share some ideas that push the boundaries of our traditional client engagement strategies." He launched into his presentation, detailing creative techniques and innovative strategies rooted in storytelling and visual engagement. As he spoke, he noticed a few skeptical glances exchanged among the team, their arms crossed in defiance against his vision. This was it, this was the moment he had prepared for, where the trail of his aspirations could either blaze a new path or get extinguished in flames of derision. "I understand these ideas may seem unconventional," he pressed on, "but I truly believe they could revolutionize how we connect with our clients. This is not just about artistic flair, it's about genuine engagement in crafting narratives that resonate." Ethan's heart raced. He glanced momentarily at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. Each word he articulated was fueled by an inner strength he had never fully acknowledged. This was a mission, not just a presentation. Then David spoke up, his voice dripping with skepticism. "Ethan, you mentioned narratives. But isn't data what truly drives our success? Are we ready to sacrifice proven methods for something so abstract?" An icy chill shot through Ethan. This was the confrontation he had anticipated, a test of will and conviction. "Data is crucial, David," he replied, fighting to maintain his composure. "But numbers alone cannot tell a story. Our clients seek connection. They want to feel something. By blending the quantitative with the qualitative, we can create a more compelling message." He could see David's brow furrow, but the unease of others was palpable. If Ethan had expected everyone to embrace his ideas, this resistance felt like a brick wall. With the room divided, Ethan realized that simply presenting ideas was not enough. This wasn't a mere task of selling, it was a plea for transformation. He needed to adopt a different tactic. In a moment of clarity, he pivoted his approach. Recalling the team's collective strengths, he offered a challenge. "Let us engage in an exercise right now, a quick brainstorming session focusing on ways we can combine creativity with data-driven insights. Are you suggesting we just throw out ideas without structure?" David retorted, a formidable foe. "No," Ethan shot back, emboldened by his conviction. "I'm suggesting we break barriers. I believe we can innovate within our proven metrics to captivate our audience more effectively. Let us experiment together, and if it fails, we'll learn from it. But if we succeed, imagine what we could achieve." A charged silence enveloped the room, each pair of eyes dissecting his earnest proposal. Was this reckless, or was this the shift they needed? David's expression softened marginally, a hint of intrigue sparking in his eyes. "Okay. Let us try it then." As the group melded into a productive chaos, Ethan felt an exhilarating jolt of adrenaline. He had taken a significant step, one that blurred the lines between compliance and creativity. Could this be the moment everything turned? While the atmosphere buzzed with the potential of new ideas, Ethan couldn't shake the question that loomed larger than ever. What if their experiment not only promised change but also uncovered hidden strengths within the team itself, capacities they had never thought possible? As laughter and frustrations mingled, he realized this confrontation could redefine not just perceptions but also relationships. He was at the edge of discovering that his most significant weapon wasn't just his passion for creativity, but the ability to invoke courage in others to bridge the chasms of doubt. What remained to be seen was whether they could hold on to this momentum or if the weight of the past would drag them back into the shadows of convention. For Ethan, navigations of both triumph and failure were just beginning, and the next twist in his journey awaited just down the hall. Would it lead to greater revelations or unexpected setbacks? Only time would tell. As the brainstorming session unfolded, an unexpected wave of energy washed over the team. Ethan, riding the pulse of interest ignited by his challenge, found himself caught in a whirlwind of ideas and voices. The room buzzed with enthusiasm, a hum that began to drown out the echoes of skepticism. He leaned into this moment, heart racing but steadying himself with the realization that shaping a culture of creativity required more than mere presentations, it demanded participation. "Let us list our ideas on the board," he suggested, stepping forward to snatch a marker. He could feel Sarah's supportive presence as a silent reminder of the strength in collaboration. The first idea, a mix of data analytics with storytelling, floated up, and he noted it down, his pulse quickening. Each addition felt like a building block toward a fortress of innovation, but with this newfound enthusiasm came the slippery slope of doubt. Just as he was beginning to feel justified in his approach, he noticed David's furrowed brow re-emerge, shadowed by disapproval. "This is all great, but how do we actually implement it? It seems like wishful thinking." David's voice sliced through the momentum like a chilling wind. Ethan paused, a flicker of irritation igniting within him. It was a challenge he had desperately anticipated but now felt unprepared to confront. "Maybe the first step is to commit to a prototype. Let us not wait for everything to be perfect. Testing our ideas could lead to valuable insights, adjusting on the go based on feedback." The suggestion hung in the air as Ethan gauged the reactions of his colleagues. A tentative nod from Sarah emphasized the silent plea for adventure over caution, while David's stern expression mirrored immediate skepticism. Yet a few others began to murmur in agreement, swayed by Ethan's confidence. This back and forth generated an internal conflict within Ethan, a desire for the security of a guaranteed plan versus the exhilarating risk of creative venture. His instincts urged him to push forward. Implementing a prototype isn't merely about success, it's also about embracing failure. We need to shift our mindset. How can we grow if we don't take chances? Through his words, he found himself tapping into a deeper motivation. He wasn't just defending creativity, but advocating for growth, positioning himself not just as the speaker but as a catalyst for transformation. The room was thick with tension, a duel of philosophies vying for supremacy. Then something unexpected happened. A junior team member named Anna, previously quiet during the meeting, piped up. "How about we split into smaller teams? Each can focus on a different aspect of our ideas. We can manage how we implement them based on our strengths." A surprising suggestion. A ripple of acknowledgement passed through those gathered. It was a shift towards partnership, something Ethan hadn't expected but welcomed with an open heart. It felt liberating to see others step forward, their creativity ignited by the newfound allowance for risk. "Absolutely," Ethan agreed, heart swelling with gratitude for her insight. "Let us do it. Let us divide and conquer." The group scattered to form their smaller assemblies. Ethan felt a jolt of exhilaration as they dove into focused discussions, harmony emerging from the friction of contradictions. But amid this excitement, a fateful question lingered in his mind: would the momentum generated today withstand the scrutiny of higher management? As the laughter faded into spirited dialogue, Ethan busied himself with his group, yet a sense of unease tugged at him, a nagging thought: what if this enthusiastic experiment was fraught with peril? The company's traditions ran deep, and he couldn't shake the fear that resistance might rear its head when the results were eventually presented. In his drive to provoke change, had he unwittingly set himself and his team up for failure? The clock continued its unyielding march as he questioned not just the future of his ideas but the very nature of progress. It was a precipice, one that hinted at the possibility of transformation while lurking with the potential for rejection. A decisive moment teetered on the horizon. Would their efforts lead to groundbreaking creativity that the company desperately needed, or would it collapse under the weight of its own ambition as tradition counterpoised innovation? As excitement wrapped the room, the path ahead lay shrouded in uncertainty. The time had come to face the fears that loomed over him like a specter. But first, he understood the importance of grounding himself in resolve, knowing that genuine success required as much an embrace of vulnerability as it did an invitation to innovate. Did he possess the courage to face the consequences of his choices? He inhaled deeply, ready for whatever followed, all the while wondering what revelation awaited him next. Would his bold choices steer them toward unprecedented success or invite unforeseen challenges that would threaten the nascent spark of creativity he'd nurtured today? Ethan stood at the whiteboard, feeling an unexpected surge of purpose. Each rapidly scrawled idea was a promise, an open door to potential that he yearned to step through. The air thick with anticipation, he waved hello to excitement and anxiety both, knowing well the stakes of what lay ahead. For too long, he believed he'd been a mere spectator in his career, and now he wanted more a chance not just to influence, but to own his journey toward transformation. As the group dispersed into their smaller teams, Ethan felt the weight of leadership settling onto his shoulders. Each member was armed with diverse talents and motivational sparks, yet, beneath the eagerness, he sensed an undercurrent of doubt. Were they truly ready to take risks, or was this merely a fleeting moment of bravery? Guiding his team through their brainstorming, he watched their faces flicker with hope and uncertainty. Ideas flowed: a refined marketing approach built on data, an imaginative campaign that merged analytics with vivid storytelling. But each time a suggestion met the faintest whiff of skepticism, the eyes around him clouded over, the winds of motivation shifting course. It puzzled him that while he could ignite passion, there remained a fragile glass ceiling that tempered their enthusiasm. "Let us map out our prototype," Ethan suggested, trying to maintain their spirited vibe. Yet as he spoke, he felt a gnawing fear. The prototype would become a harbinger of scrutiny. Anticipating their presentation to management sent pinpricks of anxiety racing through him. This would be the milestone, the moment that would showcase their collective vision or expose their ill-fated experiment for what it truly was. "Are we prepared to face David again?" one team member asked, his tone tinged with apprehension. The mention of their critic sent a ripple through the group, a reminder of the looming judgment they would soon face. Ethan could feel a visceral response rising in his chest. The suffocating fear of failure echoed like a drumbeat. "We will be," Ethan declared, mustering as much conviction as he could. Yet self-doubt followed closely behind, whispering about inevitabilities and shortcomings. Nobody liked being wrong, and he had yet to reconcile how much he feared being cast as a misstep in this process. The clock ticked, time dilating as he let the urgency of their task sink in. The objective now became twofold: to foster creativity and to confront the fear of failure that had been so ingrained in him. Could he cultivate an environment that encouraged his team, while facing the repercussions of their collective choices with unwavering resolve? As the division of work progressed, Sarah caught his eye and smiled, her confidence shining through. It was a reminder, a term of endearment carved from their many discussions about perseverance and vision. "Keep it positive," she mouthed, and Ethan took it to heart, vowing not to allow the shadows of doubt to stifle their momentum, but deep inside, a storm brewed. Was it possible to challenge the status quo without risking everything? What if their ideas were dismissed as mere whims? Could he bear the thought of watching his colleagues toil only to be scorned? Just as Ethan was about to plunge deeper into his mental assail, a realization sparked. In the bittersweet dance between innovation and tradition, he had an opportunity to carve a new path, not for approval from the upper echelons but one driven by the simple joy of creation. His personal growth had always been tethered to the fears of others. Now, it was time to liberate himself. "Let us do this," he exclaimed, adrenaline charging his voice. "Let us lay the groundwork for real change." The team echoed his sentiment, but the feeling of resolution flickered like a candle in a graveyard of doubts. Their determination echoed in the lair of his mind, an indomitable chorus demanding that courage rise to the fore. Ethan turned back to the whiteboard, ready to inject fervor into the plan. But still, he felt the question nagging at him like a persistent itch. Was there a tipping point, where the thrill of risk turned into the burden of consequence? Could he transform his fears into tools of empowerment for both himself and his team? Just then, the door creaked against the wall. It was David, a figure emerging like a specter. His expression was unreadable, and all conversation dropped. Ethan's heart raced anew. The encounter was unavoidable, and the time for pleasant illusions had dissipated. What lay ahead? An opportunity to redeem their vision or a confrontation with the harsh reality of dissent? One thing was certain: the moment of truth loomed, and decisions, once again, would test the very fabric of their resolve. Ethan Caldwell stood in his office, bracing himself for the pivotal moment he had simultaneously longed for and dreaded. After days of collaborative brainstorming and colorful explorations of creativity, today would mark the moment when their visions would be laid bare before management. He sought not only to present an innovative approach to client engagement but to prove that he could merge the worlds of corporate discipline and artistic expression seamlessly. When David entered the room, there was an electrifying tension that wrapped around the group. Ethan felt the room inhale collectively, the weight of expectations filling the atmosphere. Each sharp glare, crossed arm, and skeptical eyebrow represented the challenge ahead. Yet, in this pressure cooker of apprehension, something remarkable had ignited within him. The fear that once loomed large began to morph into a fervent commitment not just to innovation, but also to authenticity. "All right team, let us hear what you've got," David prompted, his tone gauging the readiness of the group cloaked in his familiar skepticism. Several of the junior team members shot quick glances at Ethan, searching for his cues. Here it was, he could either succumb to the self-doubt or step forward as the champion of change he had long envisioned himself to be. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, feeling the pulse of courage within him deepen. "Thank you for the opportunity, David. Today, we're thrilled to share how integrating creativity into our strategy can enhance our client engagement and ultimately drive our success." As Ethan began the presentation, he allowed himself to trust in the preparations they had made. He emphasized the storytelling elements that resonated with data, weaving narratives that appealed to human interests. Each point he articulated drew not only on the logic of metrics but ignited an emotional connection, a story that could captivate the team's imagination. As Ethan visually demonstrated the innovative integration of art with business analytics on the projector, he noticed several faces soften. Yet David's gaze remained critical. "You're suggesting we lace our corporate presentations with art?" His voice carried an edge, and doubts resurfaced. "And what makes you think our clients will appreciate this shift?" Ethan's heart quickened. David was the gatekeeper of tradition, the rigid voice that could easily choke his aspirations. But this was his moment not only to defend their ideas but to embrace the vulnerability that lay at the heart of creativity. "Because clients want to connect," Ethan asserted, his voice steadying with resolve. "In the age of information overload, genuine stories cut through the noise. Our goal shouldn't just be to inform, it should be to engage." The room buzzed with tentative agreement. A few colleagues exchanged glances, clearly pondering the implications of his passionate speech. A flicker of hope illuminated Ethan's belief that vulnerability could lead to triumph. As the presentation progressed, members of the team chimed in, bolstered by Ethan's enthusiasm. Together, they animatedly discussed how art could guide their marketing efforts, flipping the narrative from mere transaction to meaningful experience. Each idea transformed into tangible strategies, emerging statistics with imagination, storytelling with analytics. Hesitation began to dissipate. David's hardened expression softened when a creative concept ignited sparked interest from the other team members. "This approach could resonate with our younger demographic," one colleague noted, excitement creasing their brow. "We need to consider it seriously." Midway through their pitch, Ethan felt a swell of pride. They had cultivated a culture of creativity alongside business strategy, shattering preconceived notions of what it meant to achieve success. The shift felt empowering, invigorating. Each voice in the room rallied behind the idea, and unexpected unity formed, outlining a collective vision that wove colors into the fabric of corporate life. Finally, they opened the floor for questions. When another skeptical voice crept in, it came more gently this time, probing rather than judging. "How will we measure success in this new approach?" Ethan smiled, he had anticipated this moment. "By blending qualitative and quantitative metrics, we'll evaluate client engagement through feedback, analytics, and emotional resonance. Creativity will complement our data, not replace it." David's brow finally relaxed a bit, and for the first time, he leaned forward, engaged. "All right, let us talk implementation." In that moment, the realization washed over Ethan. They weren't just defending an idea, they were co-authoring a new chapter of possibilities. As the discussion expanded and flourished, Ethan experienced a profound sense of transformation. The artist he had hidden from for so long had asserted himself, infused into every pixel of the presentation, empowering him to be both businessman and creator. Standing tall among his team as they wrestled through logistics and planning laid the groundwork, Ethan acknowledged that this was not the end but a beginning. His fear had given way to life. He had proven to himself and to them that courage lies in vulnerability. Each critique, each inquiry they faced, illuminated their path. After the meeting concluded, Ethan felt the exhaustion of tension dissipate, replaced with exhilaration. They had achieved something monumental, not just a strategy but a shift in the culture of their corporate environment. With each step taken toward creative integration, he fortified his resolve to nurture the artist within without suppressing the businessman he had become. As Ethan left the conference room, the electric energy of his team echoed within him. They had really begun to redefine what success could look like, transcending the conventional narrative of office-structured ambition. Each stroke of that vibrant paintbrush he had picked up weeks ago came alive within him, as he recognized that mastery in business could extend well beyond rigid structures of profit margins. Ethan Caldwell had proved, unequivocally, that embracing vulnerability through creativity had the power to propel him toward authentic success. And with that, he took a bold step into the future, leaving behind a world of inhibition as he redefined not just how he worked, but who he was. This is the moment for each of you. Embrace your vulnerabilities and dare to transform your aspirations into reality. You need to subscribe now for more inspiring stories of personal growth and transformation. Leave a like to uplift us and be part of this journey. Comment with your thoughts, insights, and theories about Ethan's journey and share this video with at least 5 friends who are looking for that spark of inspiration. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel as we delve deeper into the realm of personal triumph and transformation.